Alright, thanks for tuning in. For today's video, I'm going to explain to you about this jig and fluke rig that if you followed along my channel over the years, you see me catch a lot of fish on it. Here recently, it's really been good for me. And I'm also going to show you some fish catches from this week using this rig. So, had a lot of questions, a lot of comments. What size jig head? What size fluke? And the answer to that is, unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all answer for that. You have to experiment. I carry along with me a couple different rods rigged up with different size jig head and a different size fluke, and it just depends on the size of the bait fish they're feeding on. We've got threadfin shad, we've got gizzard shad, we've got blueback herring. The thread fins right now are 2, maybe 3 inches long, pretty small. So when they're keying in on that small bait, you got to use a smaller fluke and a smaller jig head to accommodate that fluke. If the herring are around and they're feeding on them, they could be 4 or 5 inches long, in which case I'll use a super fluke and a little bit bigger jig head to help get it down. But keep in mind the weight of the fluke, that adds to it. So if you have a super fluke, even though it is a floating style bait, it does sink some. So that adds to, if you use that with an 1/8 ounce or a 1/4 ounce jig head, it's a pretty heavy rig. You can cast it a mile, but you have to experiment. There are some days they just prefer an odd sized bait. Some days I'll use a super fluke and an 1/8 ounce jig head because that's just what they prefer. I can catch them one day on that, go the very next day, they don't want it. They want something else, so you have to use a different size. But I've caught fish on this rig all over the country. It works everywhere. I've caught them at Smith Lake in Alabama. I've caught them at Logan Martin in Alabama. I've caught walleyes and smallmouth in Nebraska on it. It works. If you take the time to learn the technique of how to use it is as important as the lure. Anyway, stay tuned. I'm gonna go into a little more detail. I'm gonna show you some footage of different size jig heads, different size flukes I have. It is raining and it's really windy today. That's why I'm doing it under here so I don't get soaked. But I do catch this first clip. I catch the first striper of the fall season, which it makes me happy. I love the stripers. So stay tuned for that, and I'll come back with some more info. Stay tuned. Hooked into something huge, whatever it is. I hope I'll take whatever it is. Kind of acts like a gar. Nice striper. There's a nice bonus. I like it. Throwing the jig and fluke because there's so much bait around here. That's my first striper of the fall. I love it. I love the stripers. Ooh, that is exciting. Oh, I love it. Oh, you ruined my fluke. First striper of the fall. I love it. Boy, he hammered it too. With any luck, there'll be a few more. That was a nice surprise. Wasn't expecting there to be any stripers up here just yet, but it's getting to be about that time. Boy, that makes me happy. So I'm setting in about 32 feet of water. I probably caught him in about 25. Water temperature 73. It's come down a good bit, and it's cold out here. I'm chilled. I am chilled. Oh, I like seeing that. Man. Man, there's a lot of bait. Oh, got it. I think it's another striper too. Oh no, it's a giant spot. It is a giant. Ooh. I'm telling you, this jig and fluke is deadly. Look at the size of that monster. Long and skinny, but that's a big fish. That's probably 3+. Nice one. This is my kind of fishing. I'd rather catch them on a small jig or a jig than any other way. A hair jig, this jig and fluke really have caught a lot of fish on it. Okay, I'm going to show you why I caught those fish. And look at all of that bait. We're just coming up the point here. Just tons and tons of bait. That's why those fish were there. Now we're just at the front end of this kind of fishing. As the next few weeks should be interesting. There's not a whole lot of fish here. I caught those 2, and I'm going to hit these other points that are close by here, but that's why those fish were there. All right. Well, another thing I wanted to tell you is don't overlook the dye markers. These here are by Spike It. I've got this one actually has chartreuse and red in the same pack. Zoom makes them as well. I use both. Most times, if you dye your tail, chartreuse is generally what I go with. I do use red quite a bit too. Most times, if you dye that tail, it'll get you more bites. All right, so I'm going to show you here a few different things. So here I got 3 different size flukes. I have more than that that I carry with me. It's just they're in the boat and it's raining. I don't feel like getting soaked. So this is just a Fluke Junior, or a Super Fluke Junior. It's a short one. Sometimes when they're eating thread fins, I will even get some scissors and trim that down, make it even shorter. This is just a regular fluke. This is a Super Fluke. And there's actually a bigger fluke that's even bigger than that. And there are times I'll use that. But every manufacturer makes a fluke style bait. And there's all kinds of different sizes, all kinds of different colors. You just have to experiment. Every day, some days I'll go catch them and I'll go back the next day and they want something completely different. But here we got different size jig heads. These little 8s I use a lot. I'll even go as light as a 1/16 from time to time. I'll go to a 1/4. I really like the 8s though. The general rule of thumb is I usually start with either an 1/8 or a 1/4, depending on depth and wind speed. But anyway, I hope that it kind of explains it. You just have to experiment. A lot of times I'll have 2 rods rigged up with different size flukes, and if I know they're there, I will throw it in there and you just let the fish tell you. So there is not one size. I don't go out with a 1/4 and a 5-inch fluke every time. It just doesn't work. But anyway, stay tuned for some more catches here. Been catching them pretty good. The presence of bait fish in the area really helps this work. Stay tuned. I heard him again.
Man, I'm hooked up. We got it. They're good spots.
Got a double going on.
This is better than mine.
Boy. Oh yeah, man, this is a nice one here.
Here, Dana.
Hold on a second. Nice double on the jig and fluke.
Heck yeah. I got him on the
Swim bait. Oh, he's throwing swim bait.
Yeah, I got him on the swim bait.
I missed one before I caught that one. We got little wolf packs chasing out here. It's a good one, whatever it is.
Do you not have the freaking battery on? Well, it could be.
No, I don't think it's a striper.
Could
I
be
think
a huge
it's
spot.
a big spot. He's fighting funny.
He probably hit it weird.
No, it's a big old spot. And Zane, I got him hooked on the top of the head. Well, he's not that big, but he's a nice one. Another decent fish. That's solid 1.5 pounds. Might be 2. Whoa! Fumble fingers. Nice one. Deadly. So we got wolf packs of big spots coming up busting bait, and we're just sitting out here picking them off. If you're lucky enough to be close to them when they come up. I will say that most of the fish caught in this video today were caught on an 1/8 ounce jig head and a 4-inch fluke style bait. It is important to experiment. I'll carry 2 or 3 rods rigged with different size flukes, or you can just pull a fluke off and put a new fluke on. It's pretty simple. But if there's thread fins in the area, generally you got to downsize to a smaller fluke. If there's bluebacks in the area, That's the two main ones I'm seeing right now. Haven't seen too many gizzards, but if the bluebacks are around, I go to a longer fluke, super fluke maybe. You know, that it works too. I'm telling you, it is deadly. Okay, so there is a technique to it. You can't just throw it out and reel it and catch fish. It just doesn't work. So if you take the time to learn the technique, it will catch you a lot of fish. If you see fish suspended, throw it out there, count it down. Say they're 15 feet down over a 30-foot bottom. Throw it out there and count, 1,001, 1,002. You can kind of get it. You want it to be right at their level or maybe a little above. With the schooling fish you saw in my brother's boat, that last clip, those fish were near the surface, and we would throw it, let it sink just a little bit and start working it, and they would just hammer it. But if you take the time to learn the technique, I promise you, it is a fun way to catch fish. I just love it. But thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. You can contact me. Leave me a comment on the YouTube channel, or you'll see my email address is on my YouTube page there. You can find it, or you can contact me through the YouTube or through the FCP Fishing Facebook page. My goal is to try to help you catch fish, and like I said, it's not just Lake Lanier. I've caught them on Lake Hartwell doing this. I've caught them all over the country. It works. I mean, it is deadly. Not very many people seem to throw it, but I'm going to change that, I guess. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.